Welcome to Tokyo Game Life, a Tokyo-based video game podcast focusing on Nintendo and gaming culture in Japan's capital. It's your slice of gaming life from Tokyo. I'm your host Mono, and after over 3 years, I finally got to see Hanabi, a fireworks festival. I wore a yukata, watched things go boom. It was magical. If you come to Japan in summer, it's a quintessential experience. But now that I've got that out of my system, I can escape the heat and play some video games. And I'm not alone, as this episode's feature has a special guest. I'm talking about the Boku No Natsuyasumi series with OngakuGamer, a huge fan of the franchise and avid Japanese video game collector. We chat about this largely Japan-only series, its unique atmosphere, influence, and the newest entry, Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, the endless 7-day journey, which came to the Switch in the West just a few days ago. Plus, I chat about a trio of Kirby games you can play right now on your Switch: Kirby's Dream Buffet, Kirby's Superstar Stacker, and Kirby's Avalanche. Let's get right into our feature on the Boku no Natsuyasumi series with OngakuGamer. This episode's feature is about the Japanese gaming franchise Boku no Natsuyasumi, or My Summer Vacation in Japanese. Debuting on the PlayStation in 2000, it never left Japan until the recent release of Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, the endless journey for the Nintendo Switch. Joining me today is a super fan of the series, and I would say an expert on Japanese gaming. So guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is OngakuGamer. I go by that handle name on Instagram. I mainly play a lot of Japanese games because I'm Japanese myself, but I'm actually born and raised in New Zealand. So I'm native in English and Japanese. And yeah, so I'm quite a big fan of the Boku no Natsuyasumi series, and my profile picture is also the Boku no Natsuyasumi image. So
thanks for joining me. So let's start with the obvious. What is Boku no Natsuyasumi?
Boku no Natsuyasumi is an adventure game series which was exclusive to Japan and still is exclusive to Japan in terms of the main series here. It is an adventure game that you get to explore a rural town in Japan. It was first released on the PlayStation. I think it was in the 2000s. And since then, they made 4 mainline titles, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 remakes, enhanced ports, you could say, on the PSP, 1 spin-off and 2 spiritual successors on the 3DS and in the recent game that came out. In terms of the main games, they actually kind of follow the same format, which is always that the gamer's protagonist is called Boku, which means me in Japanese. And at the very beginning of the game, he gets sent away to his relative's house, which is positioned in a rural part of Japan. And controlling Boku, the player will spend about a month, summer holiday, in the house and the surrounding, the mountains, the nature, and he actually goes for that month because his mum is in the final month of pregnancy. So so in the ending, sometimes that it shows that they get a baby and he goes back and things like that. But the main thing is exploring and enjoying the nature and mingling with the people, playing mini games. Yeah, that's the main gameplay of the series, and it's typically in a nostalgic kind of setting around the Showa era, the late Showa era. So that would be maybe around the 1970s and 1980s, which is the late Showa era. So it does have an overall nostalgic feel, not so old that we can't relate to, but they would have semi-modern stuff, so you can relate to it, but it still feels a little bit old. Like if you have a TV, it might be looking a bit, retro style TV. So even if you weren't born in that era, you can still feel that nostalgia. And I think that's quite a unique part of that whole gaming experience and going, enjoying the culture of Showa era Japan.
How did you discover this franchise, and what made you connect with it so strongly?
So the weird thing, I mean, I guess it's not weird, but so I wasn't really a gamer, and close to that time, actually, I wasn't actually allowed to play much games back then when I was in high school. But then I played this game called Dark Chronicle, and it was a JRPG, but it was quite a chill, like a really relaxed JRPG. And after playing that, I was like, oh, I want something that's like you can really chill and you can have a relaxed time, enjoy some fishing and stuff in games. And then
Mm.
I looked on the internet, and typed in Japanese, relax games on PS2. And then always the first one that came up was Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, which was the one
Mm.
on PlayStation 2. And so, okay, it was an easy choice because everyone was literally recommending that one. And so I actually found that in the local store, which is weird because I'm in New Zealand, but I still found a Japanese game. Managed to find a Japanese game. And yeah, I went from there, and then I just fell in love with it right from the beginning. And the good thing is actually the second one is considered the best one, so I went
Mm.
in for the best one first. Yeah. So yeah, and why I resonated with that game, I think it's kind of weird because I am Japanese, but I've never lived in Japan for that long.
Mm.
But just as I said before, even if you're not in Japan or even if you're not Japanese, you can feel that kind of sentimental feeling or like that
Mm.
nostalgic feeling. And I really found that really unique. Like I wasn't even born in that in that time, but it still feels really nostalgic. And I really enjoyed that aspect of that game, and I found it really unique. Plus, the games I've been playing until then, the music, they keep playing the music. If I go to a town, then I'll hear town music. If I go to a battle, I hear battle music. In JRPG and stuff like that. But Boku no Natsuyasumi, actually, they recorded actual sound, ambient sound, like sound of the waves, the cicadas in the
Mm.
summer, and sound of trees, maybe grass. They recorded it actually in the actual rural part of Japan. And so the sound is really realistic. And I think that's also what I appreciated because me being actually a musician as well, I
Mm.
think the sound really catched me. It was something really different to the really game sound that I was used to hearing until then.
Yes, for people who didn't grow up in Japan, it seems to be a way to kind of vicariously experience a small part of childhood in Japan.
I think so. Yes, yes.
And even for modern Japanese audiences, like you mentioned before, the period setting makes it seem very fresh, but also kind of nostalgic for people who did experience it. Do you think the time period it's set in is a big part of the franchise's appeal?
I definitely think so. I think Showa era in general is quite a unique time of Japan, and it's kind of said to be the most peaceful time in Japan in terms of the
Mm.
people who lived at the time. I mean, there was probably things happening as well, but it's widely known to be one of the peaceful times, and it really shows by the type of things that the kids used to play. It was very like all the stuff they play around, they're very organic. It's not like these days we go video games, YouTube, stuff like that, but they would go to the tunnels close to their house, or like they would play like beigoma, kendama. It's like
Mm.
this really traditional Japanese toys that was still being played like in a regular base. Now it's part of like the old day culture, so not everyone does kendama and menko and stuff
Mm.
like that. But I think until that late Showa era, people still used to play those traditional Japanese toys. I think that's also quite a big part of the Showa era, which is nice as well.
The franchise seems really ahead of its time with its focus on slow life and a lack of real conflict. Do you think a lot of modern games are inspired by this franchise?
I think maybe some Japanese games actually. There's quite a lot of Japanese games actually inspired by the game. I'm not sure. I think most of them actually didn't make it to the West,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But I'm sure Western developers also would have played a bit of Boku no Natsuyasumi. For example, games like Undertale. The developer played a bit of Moon, which
Right.
wasn't even localized to the West, but he was still inspired by the game. So I think it could be quite likely that Western developers could also would have, imported the game and played the game and maybe have some influence from that game.
As a big Nintendo fan, the structure and atmosphere of the game definitely reminds me of Animal Crossing. Would you say that Boku no Natsuyasumi and Animal Crossing are similar in any way?
I think the relaxed kind of feel and the communication aspect is very similar. But of course, the art style is quite different. And just like the classic Final Fantasy VII, it's like a pre-rendered, pre-drawn background with 3D characters. So, of course, the gameplay is slightly different. But I think Boku no Natsuyasumi, what's different to Animal Crossing is perhaps, I guess Animal Crossing is it has a bit more freedom, and the gameplay is very different between each player. But Boku no Natsuyasumi, it would actually depend on which installment as well. But in second one, or the first one in particular, it has a little bit more story with each character that lives in the town. So I think that's quite a different part of Animal Crossing to. Animal Crossing, it has a little bit of story, but compared to Boku no Natsuyasumi, I think it has a different kind of feeling. And then, of course, that sentimental feel is something that's quite different to Animal Crossing, I think.
Yes, and both have a lot of Japanese Beatles, it seems.
Yes, I think so. Yes, true.
If you had to pick a favorite, what would you consider to be the best game in the franchise?
I said that one at the beginning here, but I think it would be definitely this Boku no Natsuyasumi 2. Particularly on the PlayStation 2, there's actually a remake / enhanced port on the PSP, which came a couple of years later. But actually, it's on the PSP, so it's on a smaller screen. But with the beautiful art that they have, the pre-drawn art, I think the PlayStation 2 one is actually the best one. But in terms of, because, there's region lock with the games.
Right.
So with the Western audience in mind, I would actually think the third one, the PlayStation 3, of course, doesn't have a region lock. So I would think for new players, Boku no Natsuyasumi 3 will be an easy entry. But if you really want to go in for the best of the best experience, then I would say the Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 on the PlayStation 2, which is actually one of the cheapest one, luckily as well.
What can you tell me about the developer Millennium Kitchen?
Yeah, Millennium Kitchen is run by Kaz Ayabe. He actually is also a curry shop owner. And it's actually in Ikebukuro. And when I go to Japan, I always go to the curry shop. It's called Kase Kare. They actually serve a really delicious, but really, apparently he never learned how to make curry. So it's actually a curry that's not really curry. But anyway, it's a whole other story. But so Millennium Kitchen is actually a developer that's mainly making Boku no Natsuyasumi games. So their original titles are Boku no Natsuyasumi 1, 2, 3, 4, the PSP ports, Bokura no Kazoku, Attack of the Friday Monsters, and the new Shin-chan game. So otherwise, they've been doing like fill-ins for other games, such as Fish Eyes, which is a fishing game. But mainly, they're dedicated to making Boku no Natsuyasumi games, or the games that are in similar style. So they're really professionals, at that kind of game.
Yes, you mentioned the spinoff of the series called Bokura no Kazoku, or Our Family in English. Is this game similar to Boku no Natsuyasumi, or is it kind of its own thing?
I would say it is its own thing. It does use of course, the same developers and also the character designer, Ueda Mineko, I think. She does the character designs for the famous hand wash in Japan called Kirei Kirei. But Bokura no Kazoku is a family raising, like a child raising simulator. So it's quite a different thing. And it also doesn't have much of the story-driven, nostalgic, sentimental aspect of Boku no Natsuyasumi. And it also doesn't have any exploration. So it is by the same developer and the same team, same artist, but it is definitely quite a different game.
For the first time ever, a Boku no Natsuyasumi game is available in English. The most recent entry in the franchise hit the Switch in the West a few days ago. Did you ever think this franchise would ever get an official English translation?
I didn't, if it was a normal Boku no Natsuyasumi game, but when I saw that it was Shin-chan, I thought, oh, okay, this could be the first one. You know, seeing maybe Doraemon. You know, Doraemon. I think it was a Doraemon Harvest Moon game that came out.
Yes.
Such as that, I thought, okay, maybe if it's with a collaboration with another big franchise like that, or something similar, I thought maybe it might be an opportunity for the franchise to possibly come over to the West. So yeah, so when I saw the announcement, I thought, oh, maybe this will be the one.
So let's talk a little bit about the new game, Shin-chan, Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, The Endless Journey, which is a really long title. Beyond just starring Shin-chan, how is this title different from the previous Boku no Natsuyasumi games?
I think this one, I would say, is a little bit closer to Attack of the Friday Monsters, which is the previous game that Millennium Kitchen made. I heard that it's actually by the same set of team, same developer team inside the Millennium Kitchen making both games. So it does have the same vibe. One of the many similarities is that it's narrated by a woman as if it's like the woman is reading a book to a little child. It kind of has that narration. It's in the third person, whereas the Boku no Natsuyasumi games, as the title suggests, My Summer Holiday or My Summer Vacation, it was about yourself going into that holiday, experiencing the holiday. But I think with Shin-chan here and Attack of the Friday Monsters, it's more like you are experiencing someone else's holiday. But there's actually a lot of similarities in the game system, the setting, like in the rural part of Japan, of course. But it does have some supernatural elements. For those who will play later, I won't really talk about it too much. But yeah, there's a bit of supernatural elements and some additions of mini games, which wasn't in the Boku no Natsuyasumi series, like this little fighting game kind of thing. So of course the setting is no longer in Showa era, so that nostalgic aspect is gone, but I think the relaxed feel, the whole gameplay is all there, will be the same as the Boku no Natsuyasumi series.
Is there an existing anime or game franchise you'd like to see cross over with Boku no Natsuyasumi?
Oh, that is quite a hard question. I thought Shin-chan was the perfect the perfect match. I think they couldn't have picked a better franchise, to be honest. When they picked Shin-chan, I was like, okay, that's 100% what they should do. Yeah, that's quite a hard one. Yeah, I wouldn't have another guess if I could think of one. Like Doraemon would be cool, but they've already done a Harvest Moon, so I guess Shin-chan was the way to go.
All right, well, I'm glad I got to chat about this series with you. So, OngakuGamer, where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So check me out on Instagram, OngakuGamer. That's where I post daily Japan exclusive games. There's a description always on it, quite a long one usually, and I do some game reviews sometimes, and lots of fun stuff there. So if you're interested in Japanese games in general, yeah, it would be great if you could visit my page.
Great. And listeners, the link to everything will be in the podcast description, so check it out. Once again, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's get into the games. Once again, thanks to OngakuGamer for sharing his knowledge with us. Please follow him on Instagram. He really has an incredible account that any fan of Japanese games would love. The links are in the description. Earlier this year, I had a Kirby-themed episode where I talked about 3 Kirby games and a shop that sold a lot of Kirby merch. Well, my feature didn't have anything to do with Kirby, but I'm still going to talk about 3 Kirby games because why not? It is his anniversary year. Kirby's Dream Buffet from HAL Laboratory launched a few days ago on the Switch. This was randomly announced on Twitter only a few weeks ago and was given a weirdly ambiguous summer 2022 date, despite announcing it in summer. The final date was dropped at the Kirby 30th anniversary concert, and well, now we have it. The Switch has had quite a few of these smaller Kirby games. Ever since the 3DS, HAL hasn't been shy about releasing smaller experiences starring the Pink Puff. Kirby's Fighter Deluxe, Kirby Fighters 2, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, Super Kirby Clash, DDD's Drum Dash Deluxe. That's not even all of them. All of these are just expanded versions of sub-games from other bigger Kirby games, but Dream Buffet is a wholly new idea. Kirby's no stranger to showing up in games with wildly different genres, but this is an interesting one as it's not a full-blown, full-price spin-off and not based on a sub-game. It's a completely original idea that's exclusive to the eShop. A lot of Nintendo fans have been clamoring for these types of games from lesser-known franchises. If you can't sell a $60 Star Fox game or a $60 Chibi Robo game, why not a smaller $20 one? Nintendo hasn't been eager to make that jump, but with Kirby, well, he can do anything. Kirby's Dream Buffet draws from a lot of influences, but it's very much a completely new thing for Kirby. When I first saw the trailer, I immediately thought of Tilt and Tumble and the gourmet race from Superstar. Though there are some slight similarities in terms of presentation, it's not quite like either. Fall Guys plus Mario Party is a far more apt comparison. You've got the frantic obstacle-filled wackiness of the races, along with the quick thinking and luck of Mario Party minigames. There are 3 types of competitions: races, minigames, and battle royale. I think those are all pretty self-explanatory, but I'll expand a little bit. A race has you reach the end of a course while eating strawberries. Minigames are short little matches where you try to get the most strawberries, and a battle royale throws you into an arena where you try to knock out the other Kirbys while also collecting strawberries. So yes, there is a lot of strawberries. The main mode is the gourmet course, which collects all these games into a longer competition. You have a race, a minigame, another race, and then a battle royale. Whoever has the most strawberries at the end is declared the winner. Taking inspiration from Mario Party, there are also bonus strawberries that you can get that reward you for random achievements like longest time spent hovering or most copy abilities used. Once you know the bonuses, you can kind of work towards them in the competition, but there are so many of them and only 3 are randomly selected, so it's definitely very luck-based. Most blueberries? Oh, I wasted all my time eating cherries. Races take place on these gorgeous tracks themed around food. There's cakes, Baumkuchens, or however you say that, barbecue, pancakes, and a lot more. Even within one race, there are different variations. Like the ice cream race has one that looks like berry ice cream and another that looks like orange and chocolate. I think these are just palette swaps, but it does make it feel a bit new and visually more exciting. The races are filled with strawberries you need to collect, power-ups that let you attack foes or go faster, alternate paths, enemies, and a bunch of other stuff. It's not quite as obstacle-heavy as Fall Guys. You are unlikely to actually fall off the course unless you take a difficult path or an enemy shoves you off, and even then, you're Kirby, so you can just hover back on. There's definitely less physics wackiness going on here. The races are still quite hectic though. You're moving pretty quickly and a well-timed attack from an enemy can easily mess up your momentum. And yes, the game has power-ups, except this time they are food-themed. Some are takes on classic powers, like the chocolate is just the stone attack, but there are some new ones here like jelly, which lets you be invulnerable and move quicker. I love how they've been translated into food, but I do have to say there's quite a notable amount of cooldown from when you get it to when you can use it. I guess they don't want people spamming, but sometimes it's unclear when I can actually use my ability. Anyways, the courses are pretty cleverly designed in that you have to think about not only speed, but also the strawberries you need to collect on the course. Do you take a riskier alternate path to grab more, or do you slow down a bit to grab a hidden 5-stack at the risk of being lapped? The addition of the strawberries keeps matches a bit more fair, and it's useful for tying in with the other minigames. The strawberries are in fixed positions, but I do think there's some degree of randomization when it comes to the other fruit, and maybe 3 or 5 stacks of strawberries in the courses. Not sure though, eventually people will figure out an optimal path for each race. The races are easily the best part. They look incredible, and each one is very distinct. Like the burger one has you bouncing on eggs, the pancake one lets you crawl up syrup. There's a lot of fun ideas in how they utilize the shape and texture of food. I don't know how they managed to make this game without instantly getting hungry. At the end of each race is a strawberry mountain. First place gets 50, second gets 20, and third gets 10 strawberries. You have to physically touch the mountain to get it, so for very close races, there can be some fake outs or some timely bounces that can really mess up your opponent. 50 seems like a lot, and it is, but the nature of the game means that even if you win both races, you aren't allowed to walk away with first place. The minigames are pretty quick and simple, like you jump into cups to eat strawberries, or break blocks, or fight enemies. Any of these could be in any Mario Party game. In the grand scheme, you really don't get a whole lot of strawberries from the minigames, but if you quote-unquote win the minigame, you could get a most minigame strawberry bonus at the end. The minigames also have unique maps that look wonderful with fun obstacles like a big slice of chocolate cake right in the middle of the board. The Battle Royale, this is what it all comes down to. All 4 Kirbys are put into an arena and you battle it out. You can do some sumo by bumping into each other to knock someone out, but most of your KOs are coming from using power-ups on the board. These are incredibly powerful too, essentially a one-hit KO if you hit somebody with a power-up. When someone is KO'd, they lose strawberries as the attacker gains them. Plus, there's a bunch of other strawberries on the board, other obstacles, random strawberries that fall from the sky. It's chaotic. Considering how you can completely alter the amount of strawberries you or someone else has, success in this mode is vital. If you enter the match with a 50 strawberry lead, but get bodied by everyone else, you're not going to end up in first. A lead is pretty much extra lives here. Are you 30 strawberries ahead? Okay, well you can afford to get KO'd once, but even then you're most likely even with the second place person now. It is very possible to go from first to last, or last to first, depending on success in this mode, but I wouldn't say the winner is completely random. You enter the battle with your size, so if you're in the lead, you can easily bully people and stop them from getting power-ups. But if you're losing big time, the game throws power-ups at you to come back. If you whiff an attack, well, that's wasted time. Some people will be mad and think, oh, I was winning the entire game but lost at the last second, but hey, that's how competitions are. You gotta succeed the whole way through. I was winning a lot early on, but people have definitely caught up to me. Oh, and a lot of these Battle Royale maps look amazing. There's a Wispy Woods one, a barbecue one with bacon bridges. It must have been so fun to just think about and plan for each stage. The game has an absurd amount of unlocks, which is likely to keep you playing. You can unlock colors, costumes, decorations for your cake in the main area, new soundtracks, and even maps. I'm level 47 now, and I still have a few more races I need to unlock. You can preview your upcoming unlocks, but only for a few levels. Grabbing these customizations is very addicting as each level up gives you quite a lot. Most are just cake decorations, which do nothing, but they look cool and are loaded with Kirby nostalgia. They have the block bot from Tilt and Tumble as a decoration. Kirby games are typically heavy on the, hey, remember Kirby? And this game is no different. The actual character customization is pretty excellent, as you can dress up like the other characters, including an incredibly convincing Meta Knight. I'm loving this game, but I do gotta lobby a few criticisms at it. For one, the single switch multiplayer is only for 2 people. This makes no sense because there are 4 players in a race. All the advertising is centered around showing off 4 Kirbys, and you can't even do a 4 Kirby race locally unless you have multiple switches. I really hope they patch this. I can see some family being really disappointed that they can't all play together. And while most of my matches have been pretty smooth online, there's definitely some lag and choppiness every now and then. If the game looks interesting to you and, well, you like Kirby, I definitely think it's worth picking up. It's only $15, there's a ton to unlock, and the core gameplay loop is just fun. The game really surpassed my expectations. No, it's not Tilt and Tumble 2, but it is an excellent rendition of essentially Kirby Party. Each course takes about 10 minutes, and I always want to jump into just one more to see what I unlock. With these types of online-focused games, it's better to get in early since that's when the majority of people will be playing. Unless they turn this into a live service game and keep adding maps and modes, this is going to be its peak player base, so hop in now and join the fun. A few weeks ago, Nintendo did another random drop of new games for Nintendo Switch Online. The most interesting one for me was Kirby Superstar Stacker, a Super Famicom/SNES remake and/or port of Kirby Star Stacker for the Game Boy. It's a Japan-only title for the Super Famicom that launched in, believe it or not, 1998, the same year as Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid, and the Dreamcast in Japan. Even with the new NSO release, Nintendo only released this game on the Super Famicom app in Japan. I'm not sure why it didn't also come to the North American app. There is some Japanese that you have to read, but it's very light on text. Plus, Mario Super Picross, Panodopon, and Puyo Puyo 2 are available on the North American app untranslated, so why not throw this one in as well? Kirby Superstar Stacker is not the official name since it never got a localization, but it would probably be called that. It's called Kabi no Kirakira Kizu in Japanese, which means Kirby's Sparkling Kids, or maybe Shining Kids, depending on how you want to translate Kira Kira. In Japan, the Game Boy and Super Famicom games have the exact same title. I thought maybe the English name was some sort of creative liberty, but I did find that Nintendo actually did call the game Kirby Superstar Stacker on their website back in 1997. I'm not sure if it was ever eventually announced and then canceled for the West, but there's a short blurb about the game on Nintendo's official site that you can see with the Wayback Machine. So maybe Nintendo has never officially canceled this game for the States. So what is it? It's a matching puzzle game. Match 4? Match 3? Nah, try 2. I don't know if there are many Match 2 puzzle games out there. What are you matching? Kirby's animal friends from Dreamland 2, Rick, Kine, and Ku. The whole game is rendered in the crayon-esque styling of Dreamland 3. I talked about that game on this podcast a few months ago and noted that it had a very distinct art style that never really appeared again. Well, it appears here at least. Having the animal friends as the things you match, honestly, genius. Who doesn't want to look at them? Or dozens of them at the same time. I love Panel-de-Pon, but come on, you're just matching colored blocks. Yoshi has enemies, which is a nice touch, but I gotta give the friends the award for best things you can match in a puzzle game. Maybe ever. Each group falls in a pair, so a Kine and Ku block are falling, and you can adjust where they go. Match Kine with Kine, and bam, they disappear. This sounds easy, and honestly, it's pretty light on challenge, but the spin on the formula is the star blocks. See, not only do you have your animal friends on the board, but also the classic Kirby star blocks as well. These can't match with each other, so star blocks plus star block equals nothing. They are really just an obstacle on the board. However, you can destroy them by sandwiching the friends. For example, you've got Rick and 2 star blocks on top of him. Put another Rick directly on the star block, and it connects with the Rick on the bottom, clearing both the friends and the blocks. So yes, a friend sandwich. The animals are the buns and the stars are the toppings. You can do this both vertically and horizontally. And like in all puzzle games, you're trying to make combos. Clear an area, wait for them to fall to make more sandwiches, and then that clears and boost your combo score. When you do enough combos, Kirby will shoot out more stars that fall on the board. These serve as kind of temporary star blocks. For example, say you've got a row of Kine, star block, space, Kine. If one of the stars Kirby shoots out lands in that space, it acts as a star block, which then clears the other star block and the Kine pair. If the stars that Kirby throws out don't make any combo, they instantly disappear. So you're trying to rack up combos to make Kirby fill the gaps on your board. The animations are really nice when you start getting combo after combo. It's awesome to see something like 20 stars just suddenly fall down onto your board. The gimmick is interesting and the graphics are beautiful, but obviously this game doesn't have a lot of depth and challenge compared to something like Puyo Puyo or Tetris. It's a very beginner-friendly puzzle game and something kids could easily pick up and play. I tried the endless mode and got to around 500 clears my first try. Other modes include a story mode where you fight against bosses in the Kirby series. It's framed like a multiplayer battle with you on one side and the enemy on the other, as you throw junk on each other's boards. This is pretty easy to clear, but one great thing about the story mode is the awesome art that shows between matches. There are these wonderfully detailed drawings of Kirby's foes in the Dreamland 3 art style. In Dreamland 3, everyone looks very small and chibi, so it's cool to see such huge renditions of that art here. The DDD one where he's crying after losing is easily the best. Another trivia tidbit about Super Star Stacker, it actually introduces a new character in Kirby's lore, Grill. She's kind of like a small witch. She's not even really evil or anything like that and doesn't turn into some galaxy-devouring monster. Grill is a pretty obscure character and only appeared in small cameos in other Kirby games. She does have a sticker in Smash Ultimate, which has sold over 25 million copies, so technically I suppose millions of people have seen her. There's also a round clear mode where you need to rack up a certain amount of stars to defeat DDD. These are more logical puzzle-oriented, like you need to put the block in a specific area to clear it. I think most people will probably stick to the endless mode or do story runs to boost their score. If you have a Japanese account, which is free and easy to make, you can easily understand and enjoy the game without knowing Japanese. Just look up the names for the modes so you know what's what. Ironically, the first selection is the Endless mode, which is strange. I think most people would start with the story. Kirby Superstar Stacker is at least an interesting oddity as an incredibly late SNES title and the only Kirby game to never leave Japan. Like I mentioned when I talked about For the Frog, The Bell Tolls, Nintendo is very internationally focused now, but there are quite a few notable titles from them that are Japan only. When stacked up against the other Nintendo puzzlers like Picross or Puzzle League, Star Stacker doesn't compare, but it's a very chill puzzle game with beautiful art, and I think people would enjoy at least trying it out. Another Kirby puzzles game was added to Nintendo Switch Online recently, Kirby's Avalanche. Now, this might be the shortest amount of time I spend discussing a game on this podcast because, in terms of gameplay, there's not a whole lot to discuss. The most interesting thing about the game is the title and the rebranding it got for the West. The game is just Super Puyo Puyo reskinned to look like a Kirby game. That's it. That's the whole story. It's exactly the same as Tetris Attack, which is a Yoshi reskin of Panel-de-Pon. It's odd that they did this, even stranger that they did it twice, and technically 3 times if you count Wario Blast, which is just a normal Bomberman game in Japan without Wario. I know Nintendo likes to leverage their characters, and undoubtedly it worked in the West, but it's such a weird trend. Imagine if they did this today. Oh, you want to release Lumines on Switch? What if we just put a bunch of Animal Crossing characters in there instead? This is a bit of a strange addition to NSO considering we got the untranslated version of Puyo Puyo 2 on the SNES app in America. Also, like how Kirby Superstar Stacker is only for the Super Famicom app in Japan, Avalanche is only for the English-speaking sphere. Come on, put both games on both services here. Who are we fooling? I don't know if I should break down the core gameplay of Puyo Puyo. You match 4 blobs to make them go away. It's a classic Japanese puzzle game and is one of those retro titles that I think almost everyone in Japan has played, like Dragon Quest or Street Fighter II. I've met multiple Japanese people who aren't gamers, who stopped playing games when they were kids, yet still somehow have incredible knowledge and skill when it comes to Puyo Puyo. My wife absolutely destroys me in Puyo Puyo, despite there being probably a 20-year gap between play sessions. I do like Puyo Puyo and respect its depth, but I was never good at it. I've tried. I have Puyo Puyo Tetris and went through the tutorials and looked up strategies online, but nothing. My skills are still at the bottom. So I don't get super excited about diving into a new Puyo Puyo game. And Kirby's Avalanche is Puyo Puyo. After reading some breakdowns from hardcore Puyo Puyo fans, 2 is considered to be a significantly better game. Many of the conventions and techniques in Puyo Puyo originated with the second game. Maybe it's like Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2? And since Puyo Puyo 2 is already on the app, it feels weird to add a very similar yet inferior version. Maybe I'm totally off base here though. Maybe some people prefer Puyo Puyo 1 to the second game. Even though it's a Kirby reskin, it's not like Puyo Puyos themselves are completely different characters. They still look like how you would expect them to. I'm not sure if people would have wanted them to change to like Waddle Dees, but it would have at least been more visually distinct. The Kirby aspects are fairly light. Perhaps the most notable Kirby elements of the game are the cutscenes that play in between matches, in which Kirby speaks English. He is also a complete jerk who trash talks enemies. I think everyone has seen the scene where Wispy Wood says, "Don't step on my roots," and Kirby immediately tramples them with no remorse. I don't know if this game had any sort of oversight in terms of the dialogue. Like, why does Kirby speak at all? Avalanche does not introduce anything new to the Kirby franchise unlike Superstar Stacker in terms of story or lore, and it is apparently non-canon, so it's perhaps the strangest of all Kirby games. Kirby's Avalanche is credited as being developed by Compile, the Puyo Puyo developers, and actually HAL as well. I looked up who on HAL worked on this title, and it's Hirokazu Ando, a composer for the Kirby series, and Tetsuya Notoya, an artist for HAL. So basically the only 2 people you need to make this game look and sound like a Kirby title. It's not like a tilt and tumble situation where you had several notable HAL people supervising even though they were mostly hands-off with the development. So should you play Kirby's Avalanche? If you like Puyo Puyo, then sure. It's one of those games that you play and just say you've played them. It's a checkmark in that big Kirby games list. I think people would get a kick out of these strange cutscenes though. Other than that, it's just a straightforward Puyo Puyo game. And if you want that, there are many other options on the Switch and even on the Super Nintendo NSO app. Well, that's it for games. If you're keeping count, I've now discussed in detail 8 different Kirby games in 2022. This will probably be the last time I'll talk about Kirby for the remainder of the year. Even if they add Game Boy titles to NSO, I might be looking at other games. I could still fit in the Kirby Cafe as a feature before the year is out, so we'll see. Alright, now let's look at some news. Sometimes all the news is kind of equal importance, so I don't know how to structure it, but if there's Pokemon news, hey, that's gotta go at the top. Pokemon Worlds 2022 concluded this past weekend. It was the first live event in over 3 years, and it was held in merry old London. I caught the last few championship matches. The big story for me, at least, was that all the Kanto starters showed up in the championships. Blastoise won juniors, Venusaur won seniors, and Charizard at least appeared in the Masters final. I was very happy to see Venusaur take home a prize. That surprise Mega Flare on Zacian was incredible. Outside of some killer matches, there was some important news. We saw a short trailer of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet featuring one new Pokemon, Cyclizar. It's a green lizard that kind of looks like a bike. Its name is Moto Tokage in Japanese, taking moto from motorcycle, and Tokage is lizard in Japanese. So pretty straightforward. A third bike lizard. I kind of debate on whether or not I should talk about the Pokemon leaks here, since I'm sure some people don't want them spoiled, but there are definitely a lot of exciting things to talk about. It is pretty interesting that they are showing off Cyclizar so early, since I'm sure everyone is like, it looks suspiciously similar to the other legendaries, and that seems important. They also showed off some competitive features. There will be casual, ranked, and rental team battles along with the online competitions, so pretty much the same as always. I feel rental teams were a big thing people wanted, and they finally added them in Gen 7, but I'm not sure how many people are actually using them. The appeal of them is that you can try out a comp team without putting in the effort of making one, but I think many people want to use their strategy, making their own team easily instead of just one that you basically need a guide to use. Game Freak has made competitive team building easier and easier, but it's still incredibly cumbersome to do so. They really need to break that barrier down if they want casuals to actually get into the online battles. I always thought there were so many different things you could do to make online battles more interesting for everyone. You could raise everyone's IVs to perfect for online battles, at least in casual matches. Also, allowing players to redistribute EVs would be a huge help. Those two things alone would make creating a competitive team so much easier. And I think having random team battles would be a lot of fun, where both players are given a completely random team. Or a draft where there's a pool of 15 or so Pokemon and you and your opponent pick them one by one. Pokemon battles are fun and easy to understand, so I never understood why the barrier of entry was so absurdly high. Also, they showed off a bit of the Gen 9 cards coming in 2023. The EX cards are back, which are really strong Pokemon that have unique side effects for their attacks. I mean, it's not wildly different from the current VE gimmick. I was hoping for something tying in more with the Terra types, like changing Pokemon types in battle, but that could come later. I'll definitely nab some packs though when the time comes. And the next Pokemon Worlds event, it'll be in Japan, Yokohama specifically. Last episode's feature was all about a place in Yokohama, so maybe I willed it into existence. This is incredibly exciting for me since, hey, I can go to it. Yokohama is a great place to visit, so people coming from overseas should have a great time. COVID restrictions are getting looser, so hopefully by next August, people can enter freely. Vermilion City from the first game is heavily inspired by Yokohama and Yokosuka, both port cities. In Yokohama Bay, the 100-year-old ship Hikawamaru is permanently docked, and this could have been the inspiration for the St. Anne. Both are passenger ships, though St. Anne is a bit more modern. So come on down to Vermilion City next year. Starting on September 1st, Baskin Robbins, aka 31 Ice Cream in Japan, will have a Splatoon campaign. There will be a themed flavor, soda and grape, ice cream sodas, and a cake, plus a special poster that you can get for your locker in Splatoon 3 if you check in with the My Nintendo app. The flavors aren't really exciting, but it looks great, so I'll definitely swing by. It runs through the months of September, and yeah, it'll probably still be very hot in Tokyo, so some pre-Halloween ice cream isn't really that strange. The locker poster looks really cool, and it has the Baskin-Robbins logo on it. However, you can only get it by using the GPS login via the My Nintendo app. If you don't know what that is, well, because it's probably not available in your country. At least it's not in the US. The unfortunate thing is that you can't log in with your US account even if you have the app. so I can get the poster, but only from my Japanese account, which I don't use to play games. I wonder if Nintendo plans to do more check-ins via the app for Splatoon items in the future. I certainly hope not, because I want to play on my US account with all my Splatoon data and my friends list. I buy most of my games on my Japanese account, but use my US account to play. I'm just weird like that. Maybe you can order things from people's lockers, we'll see. Masahiro Sakurai, creator of Kirby, creator of Smash, now has a YouTube channel. It's called Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games, and it's all about game development and design theory. The first episode is about, quote, hit stop, where there's a pause after each hit. Obviously, Sakurai is a master game designer, one of the greatest to ever do it, so he's got some incredible insight on these smallest things. I mean, hit stop? It's one of those things people don't think about, but it has a notable impact on the feel and flow of games. He also uploaded one on Kirby's Dream Land. These videos are pretty short, only about 5 minutes, but in true Sakurai fashion, they're filled with so much wisdom and great quotes. I'm not sure how often he plans to upload videos, but they're well produced and I'll watch whatever he puts out. Another high-profile Japanese game is coming to the Switch, Disgaea 7 in January 2023. The first thing I noticed is that it features a traditional Japanese aesthetic. A lot of samurai, a lot of temples, so yeah, I'm a sucker for any game like that. It has a couple of interesting features, such as Dodeca Max, where your unit turns into a giant to do massive damage. I mean, they're just riffing on Dynamax from Pokemon, right? There's also Weapon Incarnation, where you can create a new weapon with buffs from your old one. Character reincarnation has been a major staple of the series, so they're taking it a step further here. And there are 45 generic classes, a huge step up from the 23 in Disgaea 6. Plus one feature I'm never trying, online ranked battles, but good for those who want it. This game definitely has my attention. I loved Disgaea 1 on the PS2 and was a huge fan of Nippon Ichi's output during that era. La Pucelle Tactics, Phantom Brave, Makai Kingdom. Phantom Brave especially is incredible. Probably my favorite PS2 game, and that's saying a lot considering how many awesome games were on that system. Phantom Brave is actually on the Switch in the Nippon Ichi Classics pack, or whatever it's called. I wish they just sold it separately like they do in Japan. I tried Disgaea 5 on Switch and put some hours into it, but I feel like the game got so dense and complex compared to the first title. I'm liking what I see so far with 7 though, so I'll keep an eye out on it. Disgaea 6 did pretty well on the Switch, so we'll see if this one does even better. Wave Race 64 is now on the N64 app for Nintendo Switch Online. One of the more notable things is that the Kawasaki branding is back in the game. This was removed in the past Virtual Console ports. Wave Race 64 is a classic title on the console, and yes, it easily has the best water. I'm not a sports gamer now, but I was really into them during this time. Wave Race 64, 1080 Snowboarding, Excitebike, all franchises Nintendo has ignored for over a decade, but this was their peak. If you've never played it, I think this game still holds up, so try it out. The announcer alone is worth experiencing. Prediction for the next N64 game? I think 1080 makes a lot of sense. It'll get colder sooner than later. And if you want more old games, Sega will sell them to you. This was announced a while ago, but Sega is going to release a Genesis/Mega Drive 2 Mini. They recently announced all the games. It consists of 50 games from both the Genesis and the Sega CD. I'm not going to read them all off, but one that stands out is a Genesis port of Fantasy Zone, a game that, well, doesn't exist until now. This is even a step beyond Star Fox 2, since they aren't just slapping an old, unreleased game on this thing, but are seemingly developing it solely for the Mini 2. Japan is getting the bulk of the more interesting titles, since the Sega CD was more prominent in the region. The first 2 Lunar games, Popful Mail, Nadia, and Columns 3 are Japan exclusive. The North American version does have some exclusive games like Sewer Shark. You'd rather play Sewer Shark over Lunar, right? I think these mini consoles in general are a pretty good deal. It's the easiest way to play retro games without breaking the bank. As a Switch owner though, I do hope these titles find their way on NSO eventually. I have the Famicom and Super Famicom minis, but yeah, it's just easier to play them on the Switch. Sega is also teaming up with movie studio Picture Start, the creators of Cha Cha Real Smooth, to make a Space Channel 5 movie and a Comix Zone movie. Okay then, I don't really know what to say, considering we've heard that X video game movie project is in the works for years, only for nothing to happen. When I see a trailer, then I'll believe it. The official Space Channel 5 Twitter account is incredibly active and tweets all the time, so I wonder what Sega's plans are for the franchise outside of just making a movie. I'd be interested in a Switch release, but Sega first has to remember that they made games after the Genesis. Burning Rangers, the movie? It could happen, guys. It could happen. This is old news by now, but Fortnite and Dragon Ball Super had a collaboration that brought Goku, Vegeta, Beerus, and Bulma skins to the game, along with a lot of other Dragon Ball related customizations and weapons. There's a series of Dragon Ball quests where you earn Dragon Balls by completing missions. Get them all and you unlock a Shinron glider for free. In battles, Capsule Core capsules will drop onto the field, which hold the Nimbus Cloud and the deadly Kamehameha attack. I gotta admit, I've been playing some Fortnite recently. I was trying out Fall Guys on Switch, and then I remembered Epic owns Fall Guys and Fortnite, plus Giant Bomb has been playing it a lot. It's a dangerous road, but I went down it and put some more time into Fortnite. I was quite into the game when it first came to the Switch in 2018, and even bought the Battle Pass just to try it out, but I got burnt out since I felt like I was just grinding missions. But with Zero Build and the Dragon Ball crossover, it was too tempting to ignore. I kind of thought building was the point of Fortnite, and that removing it would be taking away the game's X factor, but nah, it's fine without building. The Dragon Ball weapons are absurdly fun. When you get the Kamehameha attack, you fly into the air, shout out the name, and shoot a huge energy blast that can one-hit kill another player if you nail the shot. It's so satisfying. I even managed to grab a few solo victory royales. I think I'm a bit burned out of the game now that I've got the Shinron glider, but I do have enough V-Bucks to buy the Battle Pass, yet I'll probably save it for another time if I get back into the game. This is my first time playing Fortnite since they started collaborations, and it's so funny just to get into a gunfight with Spider-Man or Master Chief or Goku. I don't think there's anyone out there to make me fork over $15 for a skin, but I'm definitely interested in jumping into the game if there's a collaboration that really interests me. The Dragon Ball collaboration was really well done, so I'm a believer. What other collabs could they do to get me interested? I think Evangelion would be a lot of fun. There's a PUBG Mobile and Ava crossover, so I think it could happen with Fortnite too. And yeah, Nintendo would be the most interesting, but there were rumors that Samus was going to appear, and Nintendo flat out said no. I get why, since they don't want Samus or Mario or whoever blasting somebody with an assault rifle. I do wish the weapons of Fortnite were a bit more creative outside of the cookie-cutter weapons you see in every shooter. The ones that are unorthodox, like the Kamehameha or the fireworks gun, are really fun to use, and I wish all weapons were kind of like that. Nintendo does seem like the odd one out, since Microsoft and Sony characters are in Fortnite, but hey, Nintendo's entire business strategy is being the odd man out. The next Fortnite collab is with Destiny 2, something I don't really care about, so I think I'll just switch over to Splatoon 3 when the time comes. Last bit of news, Soul Hackers 2 is currently on the 3D screen in Shinjuku. I posted about it on my Twitter account, and I wanted to mention it here since it's easily the most obscure game to appear on this thing. I've seen Pokemon Go, Monster Hunter, Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball, etc. collabs, and I wouldn't put Soul Hackers on the level of those franchises. I'm really hoping for a Splatoon one. I've seen the 3D screen in Shinjuku many times, and yeah, it looks really great in person. It's incredible how popular this thing became. I mean, less than a year ago, it was really just a cat that meowed a few seconds every 10 minutes. But now, all the animations are so elaborate, and there's a lot of crossovers with other companies. Plus, there's a completely different 3D screen in Omotesando. Nintendo is really aggressive when it comes to advertising in Tokyo, so I think it's only a matter of time before they take over this screen. Now for the Japanese gaming phrase of the week. This week's phrase is chakuchigari. Chakuchigari. It means landing hunt. This refers to a fighting game where your opponent is in the air, but instead of attacking them there, you wait until they land, then launch your attack, presumably taking advantage of any landing lag. There's a lot of fighting games where jumping isn't optimal, but hey, you want to jump, right? There should be a fighting game that solely takes place in the air. Once again, chakuchigari. And the Japanese tweet of the week. I picked one from Off Kurosaki, the official Hard Off shop located in Kurosaki, Niigata. I found it thanks to a retweet from Hard Off ambassador and past podcast guest Alex Krause, so shout out to him. The Kurosaki Hard Off held a one-day unmanned event where the entire store had 0 staff. Want to buy something? Check the chart, put in the cash, it's all in the honor system. This is something that could only happen in Japan. A lot of shrines also have this, where you put money into a box and then take the omikuji or whatever, but an entire store? That's pretty impressive. I haven't checked if people burned down the store or not, but I assume everything went well. The tweet is in the podcast description. That's all this time. Thanks as always for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app. Leave a 5-star review as well. It really helps with visibility. This podcast is also available on YouTube, so like and subscribe there as well. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for Tokyo Game Life or find the links in the podcast description. If you like the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends and on social media. If there's anything you want me to talk about or cover, don't be shy, just message me on Twitter. The next episode will be Sunday, September 11th. I'll have my impressions on Splatoon 3. The wait is finally over. See you next time. Matane!